Hemisphere. Good morning to our South American colleagues. It's very exciting to welcome you all to, I said in the first webinar, a historic occasion. Today is the real thing, because this is the preparation for the launch of the Global Democracy Initiative. The background you can see here behind me is actually the view that I'm looking at, because we are live in the town hall of the town of Uster, which is just outside of Zurich, a town of 35,000 people. And we are absolutely delighted that the mayor of Uster will actually be saying a few words at the launch of the Global Democracy Initiative immediately after this webinar, and we are delighted to have this official support, and that's why we are now in the town hall of Worcester with this beautiful view. Today's webinar, however, will be focusing on the Global Democracy Initiative. As you know from the title, we want to think about what each member organisation can and wants to contribute to actually making global democracy happen, how to collaborate together. More specifically, in the letter of intent, which member organisations intend to sign later on in the signing ceremony, we have committed to more. We've committed to collaborating together towards global democracy, but we've actually also committed to creating specific working groups on topics which we feel are priority and which we feel need to be pushed forward. And so in this webinar, we'll be doing both. We have 3 working group themes which we've preliminarily identified, and we'll start to think about those. One of them, the first one, is solution finding to global problems. The second one is implementation. How do we enforce effective implementation of these solutions? And the third is promotion and education around global democracy. So that's broadly what we'll be talking about today, in addition to each organisation's individual strengths. I will not speak or take the floor any longer, but would again like to welcome you. I'm very, very excited about the next 2 hours, and also very excited about thinking more concretely about how we actually will be collaborating together. So without much further ado, I would like to hand over to Asaf and then Gary, who have been kind of bouncing some ideas about solution finding to global problems. Thank you very much, and Asaf, the floor is yours.
Do you hear well?
It's a little, now it's better if you speak.
Do you hear me well now?
Very well. Thank you, Asaf.
Okay. So, everyone, thank you for taking the time.
Actually, the sound is not good, Asaf. The sound quality is not good.
Yes.
Asaf, would it be
sound quality is not good.
the sound quality now is good
Just a
again?
second.
Wait a minute. It was just for a moment when you went a little haywire.
Just if you give me 1 minute, I'm checking to do.
We are admiring your t-shirts in the meantime. Great logo. If it takes longer, Asaf, if you would like some more
Maybe
time, otherwise Gary can start, and that will give you a little time to sort out the technical aspect.
if you can, I think there is a connectivity problem. If Gary can start, I can just move and do my part afterwards.
It would be great if you could do it back to back, but
Okay.
in that case, I'll hand over to Gary first.
Okay, so we'll start at the back. So the idea was that Asaf would give you a provocative statement. We'll hear it in a minute, and also what is the GDI's vision of what we want to achieve in terms of the solution finding platform. And what I will talk about is what we came up as potential goals, and also what the steps forward could be of us all together within the Global Democracy Initiative. So what is the goal? The goal is to build what we think is the ultimate inclusive solution for a solution finding platform. What we need is a working, a live platform with an algorithm that finds and translates from anyone who could enter solutions, proposals for solutions, of course, in the first place, into this platform in any language in the world. And where this algorithm will then filter out which ideas are similar or the same, brings them together, and then also finds and condenses out of all these proposals, hopefully a few very nice and very concrete solutions, proposals that can be voted about. And this algorithm, of course, will be the most tricky part to be developed. That's at least what we think in the working group. Solution finding. And the question is a little bit, how do we get there? What are potential steps that we could do together? So we decided that it would make sense that in the first year, so this year, 2021, of course, we have to discuss the general principles in more detail about how such a solution finding platform should look like. Then we should agree within the GDI about the main properties of such a platform, so that we really have a common agreement about the requirements for such a platform. Then we have to start writing a list of what kind of platforms do already exist, because maybe the solution is already out there, or at least a good basis for the final solution. And we have to evaluate these different existing platforms. And ideally, we'll make a decision still this year on which platform or platforms we could start with. So as I said, if we can agree maybe already this year, then in 22, we can maybe already use the best existing platform for our own purposes, because also within the GDI, we need to make decisions. We need to come up with ideas and solutions for the whole global democracy system. And this could all be entered, evaluated, and improved within this platform, ideally. And of course, in parallel, we'll maybe test more other platforms and or start programming, improving either an existing platform, or maybe we have to start really from scratch and develop our own, which I personally doubt, because I think there's a lot of good stuff out there already. But of course, it's too early to make a conclusion here. And then if we do a good job in the first 2 years, 23 to 25, we could keep on testing the platform that we have by then, and maybe also define a kind of a test community, because it would be nice if we could implement the platform. Of course, we already use it in the GDI, but we maybe should also then define a bigger test environment, which could be one city that tests the platform, or could be another bigger organization that also works with this platform to find and consolidate solutions. That's the concrete steps forward that we propose, and we is mainly Asaf and me so far. And what can GDI members contribute? Of course, all the members interested in this working group can help us with their ideas, with their inputs, help us to make the list of existing platforms. We will need, of course, resources to find and improve the solution as soon as we have decided which platform we want to work with. Maybe even get resources in finance or in labor. And so far from the last steering, almost all the members of the GDI are actually interested and said that they might contribute to this working group. So far, it's Global Online Democracy, GloCo, Global People Power, and Democracia Global, who said that they might have something to contribute to the solution finding mechanism. And I think by now we have Asaf back, who could now start giving us the vision for this platform.
Yes, do you hear me well now? Better sound? Yeah, okay, great. So yeah, I will take it now for a little bit more general description of what we think about the solution and findings and where it comes from. So I wanted to start by a small quote of Einstein that once said that only a fool does the same thing over and over again and expect different results. My question is, are we all fools? Because representative democracy, yes, it brought us up to this point, most of the time did pretty good job, but in the last 20 years, the problems have changed. Our problems became more dangerous to humanity and to life around us. Combustion engine, for example, was a great technology for getting us from one place to another, but with increased population, increase of cars on the road, and everything else we burn for our needs, this technology will take us to a very bad place. Another example is that representative democracy help and support very few people to have more money than half of the world population. Bill Gates, for example, in more than 45 African states together. Representative democracy does not provide solutions to these kind of problems, nor it unites different nations for a one global policy. We must then improve the system. The GDI aim is to solve global problems by creating a digital decision-making platform. In the heart of this platform lies the solution for every problem we need to solve. How do we find, though, the best solution for so many problems? In our platform, the solutions can come from basically anywhere. Universities, research groups, nations, citizens' assemblies, students, or any other concerned citizen that would like to offer his solution. And not only that, everyone can take a solution from a university, for example, modify it, and see if other people like it and vote for it. Once there are a few most engaged solutions, people rank the solutions and vote for the one they trust the most. Solutions can be also bundled into a progressive policy that will offer holistic answer for local, regional, and national levels, since these levels might be also affected from the implementation of global solution. For example, a global ban on dolphin hunt can cause harm to some villages when losing their only income they depend on so much. We must then create smart solutions that, for example, invest in changing the industry in these places, or a policy that will support the villages in changing their professions and not just ignore them. After the implementation of a solution, it can be developed even further, and it can be brought back again to the system for analyzing and voting if the result was not satisfying, or if the solution can be tweaked to be even better. Only technology-based decision-making platform can offer us these endless possibilities. And if to go back to Einstein's quote that I started with, I guess if we change the system, we won't be fools anymore. But if we won't, that's another story. And here I pretty much finished.
Thank you very much. Well, I think it worked well both ways, even with Gary starting and you ending with a more provocative statement. Before we move on, I'd like to just spend maybe a few minutes giving everybody the possibility to ask questions. So we're talking about a digital platform on which we can collect solutions, we can bundle solutions. I'll open up the discussion here. Also welcome Fernando. I can see that you've come on board. I've only just seen that. Allow me, all members, all participants can maybe ask some questions they might have, or thoughts or comments.
Maybe comments on our provocative statement. So we really think that solution finding will be the most important part of the global democracy, because we think only if we find great solutions that already have the buy-in of the people does it make even sense to vote about it. And that's why we think, of course, every citizen needs an identity so they can vote. It's important. And it's of course also important that we have the vote in the end. But we think that the key will be finding a great and acceptable solution. Because if we cannot come up with those solutions, then the best voting mechanism and the very good digital identity will not solve the problem anyway. So that's why we think that for the Global Democracy Initiative, finding this mechanism on how we can consolidate a great, inclusive and fair solution will be absolutely key.
One thing that I can add to it is that if we really have a good solution, people will come and vote. People will participate. If we also involve them in the creation of the solution, there will be more engagement, and with more engagement, it will tell the story in a much better way. People will understand more, will dig more, read more, involve. They will be excited about it, and it will bring more users to the system, hopefully.
And it's maybe a question also to the other members whether they agree or whether you see it differently. It's not just because we lead this working group, right? It's because we really believe.
Yeah, and the nice thing about a system like that is people do not agree, then you can really do something. You can change. You can offer something else. You can offer a different formulation to the sentences in the policy that we are making, and then people can say, hey, really, this sentence is much better. It sounds much better. It hits to the point in a much better way. And then they like it, and then more and more people like it, then formulation in the policy just somehow, I don't know how to say it, but they just stick to the policy.
So the other members of the organization know that I have suddenly had a sort of a conversion on a road to Damascus, and have fallen in love with citizens' assemblies. And I'm wondering how that the two online processes could also facilitate citizen assemblies. So perhaps an online global democracy method could replace something which is where your like is very trivial, such as through Facebook, but you can actually vote on and show your intention for and against in a more nuanced way as well, or you could make suggestions to amendments and things like that. So and how that would tie in with the issue that the sense of I have with online democracy is that there's a legitimacy issue because the whole world isn't online. But if, say, for example, what the World Citizens Assembly are doing, they're inviting people all over the world who using sortition, so a randomly selected jury which is reflective of the social makeup, and inviting humanity from all over the world to take part in citizens' assemblies to come up with find the solutions to global problems and to suggest the solutions. So, and that also could tie in with local people's assemblies, national citizens' assemblies as well, and the two could complement each other, or maybe even with an online democracy, if people didn't want to talk, they could use an online democratic platform to participate in a randomly selected global jury. And in that way, you overcome the issue that the whole world isn't online if you've got a randomly selected people all taking part.
Absolutely, that's the plan. So what we said, it has to be an inclusive platform, and anyone can enter an idea. So it's very unlikely that the ideas will come from single individuals, but it's possible. But it's very likely that maybe a university in a research project comes up with a proposal, could be another organization that comes up with a proposal, could even be a lobby of the oil or nuclear industry that comes up with a solution, right? So really the platform has to be open for any input. And of course, people that don't have access to the digital world will have to go through an intermediary, and we have to make sure that this is possible. But we absolutely agree, it has to be completely inclusive. And citizens' assemblies, I believe in this concept as well. I mean, the wisdom of the crowd is a very strong thing, and through whatever mechanism we can take this wisdom of the crowd and bring it into the platform, this has to be ensured. Yeah.
Yeah, one more question from Lars. I can see him raising his hand.
I think one of the key points that you're pointing at, especially with inclusiveness globally, is something that we all live in different cultures. And how do you think that you can overcome that cultures around the world and the discussions will have to bridge the cultures from east to west?
So the sound quality was really poor last, but I think the way that I understood your question was, how can you, I mean, we live in a very diverse world, and how can we overcome certain cultural differences across the globe? Is that correct?
I thought that going outside would work better.
Lars and I are actually in the same room, as is Gary, as we have a live audience here too.
Yeah, the cultural differences, overcoming them, that's the key point. Where do you see the challenges or the opportunities of the digital and other forms in that?
Asaf and Gary, did you want to respond? I have some ideas on it, but
I mean, the easy answer is, of course, yes, we have to overcome them. The difficult question is, how do you do that? I mean, it's not so trivial. So many cultures, so many languages. And so I guess that's not a trivial answer, unless Lucy has the trivial answer, then we'll listen to that. But yes, we have to do that. But I think that's going to be a process we have to do. And
I mean, personally, I mean, that's one reason I'm a member of GloCo, and I'm very excited about the idea of the Global Democracy Initiative, is that I feel that, you know, it's not just that our problems have become globalized and really interconnected across the globe, but so have the solutions. But I actually think with digital technologies, we have a huge, you know, only now can we really start deliberating, talking, participating, exchanging, collaborating on these issues as well. And so I'm not so worried about the, I mean, cultural differences, you can put that on center stage, but I mean, it doesn't really matter whether we're in the town of Worcester, we have political or identity issues here, or whether you're on the planet Earth. You know, that is part of human, there is no such thing as a homogenous community, and that's the exciting thing about democratic debate as well. And I think it's going to open up huge spaces where we can start talking with each other, we can start listening to each other, but we can also push the agenda forward and actually start doing things and changing the world and not be a fool, like Einstein said. So I'm an optimist on this, and I really do see the positive dimensions which today's technologies open up. And absolutely, Barnaby, I couldn't agree more. You know, one needs that. You need the buy-in, as Asaf was describing, of real people, real communities, real interest groups. You know, real. You know, of course you need that, but you know, you can do both and combine the strengths and the swarm intelligence as well, hive intelligence.
I can just add a little bit something small, is that I think that the strength of a system like this is in the possibilities of creating policies that are different from one group of people to another. We don't have to create policies that are the same for everyone. We can create smart, progressive policies that are going one step forward from what the policies that are currently achieved in the representative democracy.
Yeah, Lars mentioned, asked a question about how you can bridge cultural divides. I think the cultural divides actually is excellent. We want that. So we want to have a mix of different worldviews and experiences to add to the pot. And therefore, seeing things from different points of view is really helpful. On the Global People Power website, so you can see some thinking tools to aid debate. So systemic thinking tools, to how to encourage people to see how global problems impact them locally, how local problems, you can trace problems that are impacting you back to their source, be it local, regional, national, or global. And then also, I've created emojis, so you can, with little pictures of me, family, community, nation, and world, and you can put in your discussion, in your text discussion. Also, empathic debate. So the 6 hats thinking tool. So everybody looks at an issue from the same angle at the same time. So you all say something critical about it. You all say something positive about it. You come up with new ideas together, and you come up with facts. And 6 hats thinking tool is also really useful as an empathic debate, and also to teach critical thinking. So not just to take information that you're giving as at face value, but which is how they're taught. People are taught to think in universities, which is when you look at the British voting trend, the more educated people are, the more they vote for the president government that are in power. I'm not that educated, but I'm not saying that. But yeah, I didn't do very well at school, but I do know that our government are heinous.
I think you made line. Not the present British government. I will hold my peace on that. But on actually, whatever solutions we come up with, or whatever tools we come up with to generate these solutions, I think it doesn't just have an instrumental value in terms of solving global problems, but I actually think it has a very intrinsic value where people do start engaging with each other and hopefully kind of also nurture a new form of political decision-making and engagement. What we can see now is huge, disenchantment across the globe, really, and frustration and anger and polarization. And I mean, my hope, maybe on an idealistic level, but I think we can start in small steps and enlarge, much as Asaf said, where people will actually feel they are empowered, that they have very valuable and valid ideas, solutions, issues that they want to flag, and where we learn to interact with each other about these solutions as well. So that is my hope, and I think we're making good progress towards it. I got told off for saying we're only doing baby steps, but baby steps, that's a huge leap for humankind.
A giant baby.
Giant babies usually fall flat on their faces. We want a small, agile one. Okay, so if there are no more kind of urgent, immediate questions or comments, and hopefully there will be time at the end to raise some more questions, I would actually move to you, Barnaby. Barnaby's been thinking a little more carefully on behalf of the other members about implementation. So Barnaby, please.
Okay, so my little talk is about strategies how to pull nations together to tackle planetary problems, how we can compel politicians to take part in that, to cooperate globally in methods which are inclusive and participative, that create a sense of belonging to not only to celebrate people's individuality, in people's culture, but also our common humanity, and which will also encourage systemic thinking about threats which we experience at home. So a little bit about me. So I've, for the last 16 years, been working on ideas around global governance. And I've been working on the streets, signing people up and really listening to people. My favorite thing to do is to find common ground with people who have very different worldviews to my own, and to hear people out, even often people that with ideas that they wouldn't even be able to say that on say what they really feel on social media without getting into trouble. And then when you really listen to people, people can also will listen to you too. And I think if we cement this in locally with so local to global action, this will really help harmonize, include and harmonize fundamentalist and what's the other word for fundamentally, extremist ideologies. So which is that, you know, the far right are really gaining ground all over the world at the moment. So this is a big issue. So I also do street work for a conservation charity. That's my regular work, and which I've been doing for about 14 years. At the moment, everything is up for grabs. So the foundations of society, of nature, a crumbling capitalism is being, the whole basis of it is being questioned. As Joe Biden says, trickle-down economics, it doesn't work. So we need to put in place the foundations of a better world so that people can grab that before there's nothing else left to grab. And so we want to replace oppressive systems with systems which are liberatory. And rather than connecting border walls of hate, we want to build bridges of understanding and sense of our common humanity. So what I see the Global Democracy Initiative as being such a wonderful setup is because we're looking at each other's organizations to find which aspects of each other's organizations is the most potent, and then we can agree on that and to put those practices in place, the democratic processes and also the action plans. We're working together to find out which ones can achieve the best results in the most legitimate democratic way and in the swiftest time frame possible. And then we'd find a name. Maybe it was one of the names of our organizations that we have already, and that this is how I see it. I think we should work together on a single organization, and so we can pool our resources and not be competing for airspace and funding. So a name which really people don't need to think about and that they feel instantly connected to. So in Earth citizenship is one thing that we all agree on. So we've got the proof of humanity protocol, which has been set up by Democracy Earth. So people can register themselves online using blockchain technology, and to as a method of having a bona fide registration of humanhood, which is is Turing proof. So it can't be beaten by computer technology. So using attention mining, so someone films themselves, says who they are, and somebody else says, that person, I know they are who they are. And this is a breakthrough, groundbreaking technology for proof of humanhood. And then for quite a number of years, the World Service Authority have had a world passport, which you can sign up for. It's £70. I was going to sign up for £170, and I've got to renew my UK one, so I'm not going to do both at the same time. So perhaps we should look at ways to find out how we can make that free for the whole world. So a BBC poll it's noticed that over polling 20,000 people around the world, noticed that emerging economies like India, Nigeria, China, and Peru, 70% of people said they saw themselves as global citizens. I prefer the name Earth citizen because it's a little bit more earthy, and so I find that very heartening. But whereas the trend in rich nations is it's retracting. People are being more insular, which also reflective of the far right taking control around the world and oligarchs gaining power. So the Earth citizenship is like a heuristic. It's learning through being, and it encourages us to think systemically and to recognise our common humanity. And it also taps into something that a recent thing I found out about, which I find is wonderful. 99% of our human history, we were indigenous hunter-gatherers. And that wisdom, that seeing the interconnectedness of all things and the space between everything, it really links into the latest system science. And also we have learned, and I learned over the last few years, that cooperation and a strong sense of fairness were the key ingredients which led to the evolutionary success of our species. So I think Earth citizenship could really tap into that as well, and also give people a strong sense of belonging to participating globally, whilst also overcoming the homogeneity of globalized capitalism, of globalization, which forces countries to all act in the same way and places far more power in the hands of corporations than it does for local citizens. Like if local citizens want to, or countries want to regulate, quite often they can be taken to secret international courts by transnational corporations. So this whole idea that we're taking part in would reduce that homogeneity. So I think we could have regular events that are held monthly. On every Friday of the month, we could have a pause and applause for the planet and everybody on it. Then on a Friday, we could go out and recruit Earth citizens on the street. Like I say, I like my street campaigning. If you look on Global People Power, you can see vox pops of where I've been asking people that are queuing up to political events what they think the world could and should agree to act on together. And we could also ask people what kind of world that they want to live in. So sort of raise the debate a bit more. And also I'm a member of an active, I need to get more active. I've got a 1-year-old, so I've been out of the game for a little while. I've been active with Extinction Rebellion, and they are demanding governments tell the truth, to act now, and to set up local and national and global citizens' assemblies, and which they call Beyond Politics. We can convene Earth citizens' assemblies now, and we can promote the findings of them. And again, like Azaf was saying, if people can see the solutions that already exist, it's going to raise our sense of positivity. So, and positivity engenders action, and then people will get involved to take action, to pull the world together, to cooperate. So, like I was saying before, so randomly selected online or face-to-face citizens' assemblies could be asked, what are the problems? What are the key problems that we are experiencing, which are global in scope? What are the systemic root causes of those problems? What are the barriers to tackling them? So say, for example, countries being pitted against each other. So international divide and rule is a weapon to stop countries from acting unilaterally. And what policies, which policies can tackle the widest range of world problems. So for example, changing the way money is created could support governments to act unilaterally to tackle climate change and to invest in universal healthcare. And also we could convene Earth citizens' assemblies to be topical. So for example, the conflict going on in Israel and Palestine at the moment, we could ask World Citizens Assemblies to come up with solutions to that, which if they were, in my opinion, if they were given all the facts on the ground, they would vote for a world peace through law proposal, which is conflict resolution, arms reduction, 4-stage compulsory alternative dispute resolution, and enforcement through an international peace force. I've nearly finished. So we could also vote for politicians that have become fellow world citizens. We could say to politicians at election time, we'll only vote for you if you sign an agreement to cooperate globally. But if we ask them to become fellow world citizens, I think I think that'll create far more of a connection between us and them, and it'll rather than politicians all the time, like which is happening with the opposition party in the UK at the moment. They're trying not to tread on any toes, so they're not saying what they're for. We need to say what we're for, and we're for global cooperation and Earth citizenship and tackling global problems and recognising our common humanity. So the politicians could sign an accountability agreement to cooperate globally, and they could also they could agree to cooperate globally on policies which are global in scope, which countries can't implement unilaterally because they would suffer a geopolitical or economic competitive disadvantage. But they could also recognise a two-tier kind of policies which countries could implement unilaterally, and policies which they couldn't. With this in place, you would remove the excuse of inaction, of procrastination. Politicians say, well, we'd love to do that, but we'd leave ourselves at a competitive disadvantage. And also, transnational corporations and globally mobile elites push that agenda of competition between nations. They benefit from competition between countries. So we can remove that excuse. What can you implement now, act now, as Extinction Rebellion say, and also what do we need to cooperate on globally? So really things like genome editing, world peace through law, these policies would require global cooperation. Tackling climate change is arguable whether countries would actually increase their competitiveness if they acted unilaterally, and there are ways, economic ways for them to do so without suffering a competitive disadvantage. So also with voting for politicians to cooperate globally, there's an issue in that this on its own isn't powerful as some make out that it is, because the trust in politicians globally is dismal. So only 9% of people in polls, global polls, think politicians are trustworthy, but 67% think they're untrustworthy. And finally, my final point, I know I've covered a lot of things here. So local people's assemblies. I'm setting one up in my town here. It's Llantwit Major in South Wales. So this is implementing the power of subsidiarity. So global solutions for global problems, but how are they going to be implemented nationally and locally with the buy-in of local people? So if we set up local groups, self-organizing local groups, so this is using the philosophy, which is system science, system thinking, seeing systems as whole systems within whole systems. So we can teach systems thinking, we can teach critical thinking, and we can learn how to debate with each other so that we can find common ground despite our divergent worldviews. And because it is not proximity of people with different worldviews or different religions that causes problems, it's a lack of access to power is the key reason for conflict arising. And if we do all these processes, it's my belief that we can absorb and harmonize fundamentalist and extremist views, and we can create a sense of our common humanity as we tackle a perfect storm of planetary problems together. Thank you.
Well, Barnaby, I think you've really cut out our work for us. No, you did cover a lot of ground. I think a lot of food for thought. You've given us a range of very quite specific tactics and operations and procedures, campaigning, awareness raising, but also kind of a common identity, and not in a technical sense, but in a more, what do you call it, humanitarian sense as well. Right down to global systems. So thank you very much for that. Really very, very fiery and inspiring. And I think we need that. I would like to open the floor here, looking at, implementation. Are there aspects that you feel you would like to prioritize or you would like to comment on? From the perspective of your organization, from your own perspective, Asaf?
Yes, I would like to just say that I agree with Barnaby almost everything he said. Just the only thing that bothers me about making agreement with politicians is that my short experience with politicians, of course they will sign with you anything to bring a lot of support for them, but eventually when the time comes to make the decisions in the parliament, they usually choose what their financial the people that fund them or support them, they do what they are asking. So I would like to see in the parliament people or representative, at least in the time where the system is changing from representative democracy to a real or true democracy, based on a system, on technology, on decision-making technology. For the time being, until the transformation is complete, I would like to see people in the parliament that are placeholders, that are only there in order to do what the people in the system agreed upon. I think that can be the process between having the solution that people are agreed on and making it real and implementing it, because we have this implementation. Once the parliament is agreeing to it, voting on it and sending it to implementation, that's the easy part. The tricky part is in the middle, how to get the parliament in this time before the real transition to agree on this in the parliament. This is my point. Did I got it through?
Well, with regards to politicians saying one thing and doing another and going against their manifestos before they get elected, and then when they're elected, they say, well, we'd love to have done that, but. So one of the arguments of one of the organisations that took an interest in the Global Democracy Initiative suggested that the reason politicians don't act when they're in power is because they have to maintain the competitiveness of their industries. And my opinion is that gives them an excuse to not to take immediate action. I prefer Extinction Rebellion's method of saying act now. If we don't act now to tackle climate change, it's a racist policy, because people in the global south are suffering now from the climate inaction of the north. People in the north are putting out way more emissions than people in the global south. It's racist not to act now. There's no excuse, really. We need to find a way. And so yes, there are certain things which do require global cooperation. But if we created that two policy tier, what policies can act on now, and removing the excuse of inaction, and what policies do actually require global cooperation. And if we can get politicians to sign up to that, that I think would be quite a potent way to drive immediate action. So the way that some people look at campaigns like ours is they call it cathedral thinking. So you're building a cathedral, you know you're not going to see the cathedral built in your lifetime, but your children might see it. That's great, we need to do that, but we also need to find methods to create immediate action. Then also I'm also a member of the Independent Constitutionalists UK, who are looking to reform UK governance. So we are looking to elect independent representatives that are free from party funding and from corruption, and to create a citizens' constitution, to reform the House of Lords, and to also use citizens' assemblies. So it's called representative participative democracy.
Okay, thank you, Bonnie.
Almost entirely forgot what it was about then. But.
Yes, so it's about politicians, getting politicians to act. It's about a groundswell coming from the people, however that may happen. We do have a question coming from the audience, from Lars. He asks, not all governments on national level have high democratic legitimacy. So what are all the members actually, not just Barnaby, your thoughts on how we can work with these nations to get policy to work?
Can you repeat the question, please?
It's in the chat, actually. It's not all governments on the national level have high democratic legitimacy. And the question is, how can we work with those nations?
But I think that's exactly why the citizens should be in the foreground and not the nations and not the national policies, right? I mean, that is why we want to build a democracy for the global or the earth citizens, however we will call them. That's much more important. And again, that's why I think if we have a great solution that solves the problems, and I'm take the dolphin example that Asaf brought up, right? If it solves not only the cause or the problem like dolphin hunts, but also the problem this, if you forbid it, creates for other people, then you will have a large buy-in. And then you could argue, A, you could argue you don't need the politicians anymore if everybody agrees, but B, you could also argue then the politicians will agree as well. And that's why I think we should work on the solution and the system and care less about how it's being implemented. Because again, I think a good proposal will be implemented. That's by definition, right? If we find a proposal that finds a majority, then we don't have to care anymore how it's being implemented. If we don't find a solution that is supported by a majority, then the politicians will not help us either. That's my view. And that's why I think finding the good inclusive solution is absolutely key.
Yeah, I agree. It's all well and good agreeing to cooperate. It's all well and good agreeing to cooperate globally, but if we don't have the nuts and bolts of what we're cooperating on, then it is kind of just a flip point. It's meaningless and empty. Well, it's not meaningless. It's good, but we need to have the content, not just the external sort of shine.
Barnaby, I'm going to stop you there. I'm sorry about that, but I've got an eye on the time. That is my job description today. We will take these statements with us and these thoughts as we go forward. At this point, I would like to hand over to Eston, if I may. Eston, you are the president of the Young World Federalists, and you will be talking, I'm not sure with what hat on, will you be talking from the perspective of promotion? This is one of the working groups that we thought you might be interested in, and also, of course, with your own organization.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to be here, and I really enjoy the conversation, and a lot of what Barnaby's talking about resonates with me and with what everybody's saying. So I actually prepared a small presentation. I did a little bit of work yesterday, just kind of brainstorming ideas. So if you don't mind, I'll share my screen. Is that possible? I think I can. Yeah, you should see it now. So yeah, this is just a short presentation on promoting global democracy, basically the GDI. Yeah. So this is like, there's 4 things in this presentation, mostly with like branding and then the website and social media, and then the process, moving forward, how do we talk about these things and how do we collaborate on these 3 other things moving forward. So really I'm focusing on, getting mass participation. I think we can all recognize that if we create a really nice system and we're the only people to use it, it won't be global or democratically legitimate. It'll just be us 10 people talking about how great we are. So we really need to like get a lot of people to use and be participating in whatever we choose to do. And so what these ideas here presenting is how to basically market the GDI, make everything more attractive. Yeah, and that's sort of what I specialize in a little bit. Yeah, and so that's what it's about. It's really focused on that, not necessarily the nuts and bolts of what we're actually going to be doing, not necessarily the activities, but how to market them to the public. So the first part is branding. And if you'll notice a pattern with our logos, it's that we all have the globe in some way, or at least a circle. So I think that's really cute. We clearly all are globally focused. So I wanted to kind of go away from that actually with the branding for this for a few different reasons, mostly because a logo for global democracy is very difficult. I think Democracia Global with the ballot going into Earth is probably one of the best examples I've seen, but it's a really hard idea to convey. And moreover, we're a network of organizations, and we're promoting a network of world citizens to collaborate on solutions to global issues. And I could talk more about that maybe at the end about Young World Federalists and subsidiarity and federalism. But anyway, so back to the branding. Yeah, so that's what we do. And then there's some keywords here that kind of drive the rest of the branding here: network, organic, science, technology, connected, diversity, going back to, there's different value systems, different levels of government, different types of government around the world. So diversity and inclusion is critical to when we talk about anything global at all. And so these are existing colors from just the website. I gave them names and found what they were. These are some fonts that I came up with, or I chose. These are all just ideas. Oh, they say font ideas. So none of this is like, when you sign this paper, you're not signing on to this brand identity. You should know that. This is just my ideas. And I'll get more into that at the end. I've put everything in a Google Doc for us to collaborate on, and I'll email it after this. So you can give your detailed comments, and that's how I think moving forward, we can just work in a Google Doc and start collaborating there. So these are just putting ideas on the table. I made a short logo, kind of, embodying the keywords. It's a network. It's diversity, and I kind of call it like the molecule, because it reminds me of like a molecule. So it has that science and technology aspect as well as the network. Obviously, it loses the globe and the global part. It doesn't have that, but for a reason. I consciously went away from it. And there's 7 dots because there's 7 organizations involved right now. So that's sort of the symbolism. Yeah, and so that's what that is. And then similarly, we need to talk about what are our key phrases that we want to use. If we want to choose 1 or 2 hashtags to use on social media to kind of represent everything we're doing. Again, this is all in a Google Doc where you can add your own suggestions or critique ones that are there. A tagline, sort of a slogan for the organization. Barnaby brought up the name, which I didn't even think of. I thought Global Democracy Initiative was set in stone, but that's a whole other conversation to have, is naming as well as product names. If we do develop a system or something like that, that's a whole other conversation. But this is really just for like the GDI at this point. And then principles, which is really critical, just for not only for branding, but so that we're all on the same page with what we want to do moving forward. So Barnaby also brought up subsidiarity, which in terms of implementation is really critical. So we don't need to focus, going what Gary was talking about. We don't need to focus so much on implementation. If we have subsidiarity and federalism in place, then we can have the global solution that's then implemented at the levels that matter most. So those are my principles. I'm a World Federalist, so I'm just giving a shout out to those principles and values. But obviously, there's a lot of other ones to talk about and add and take away and stuff like that. This is a basic outline of just putting this stuff on the website, what it could look like. I obviously just chose our logo, and I think we would want a list of all of our organizations and contact stuff. This is something that I forgot to mention this, but this is something that I and Democracia Global kind of talked about. And this is just sort of basic stuff, is that we should have maybe more information on the website about all of our organizations and how to get involved. And then activities, so whatever the GDI is actually doing would be there. And then learning, the webinars or more education materials. I keep it really simple at this point until we really start creating content together, like reports or algorithm or whatever the goals are moving forward. It may be important to have long-term and short-term goals and start dividing that up based on capacity. And so I'll just run through this. That was the beautiful part of the presentation, and now we're into like just words on a white background. So there's 2 main options with social media. We could make separate GDI accounts that would build a standalone brand that may actually have different partners than our own. So Young World Federalists, we partner with like youth organizations and democracy organizations. But the GDI, if it focuses on the tech side of things, it may be more in a startup or like Silicon Valley environment, and those are the partners that we'd want to have. So having a different brand online would enable that. But however, it requires one person to create regular content. So that's a resource limitation. Option 2 would be to what we're basically already doing, just sharing GDI content on our own accounts and sharing that back and forth. However, going into the process, which comes up next, I think right here. Yeah. So we need to think about how can we actually share content, not only related to the GDI, but from our own organizations with each other. And I think we already were talking about this before with, how do we as a group really solve problems and discuss and work with, do we immediately have our own, do we find a democratic platform for us to work, or do we just have a WhatsApp group or something like that where we're chatting? So these are some of the main questions I think we need to, that would be the next step for me, I think. These webinars and these meetings are great, but it would be really awesome to have a centralized place where we were able to talk and discuss in between these meetings and moving forward in a more consistent basis. And I'd highly recommend that it is not email. So I would choose a one of these options here. Young World Federalists uses Discord. It's very similar to Slack. Yeah, so I would recommend that again, this is all in a Google Doc. So that's sort of, that'll come next, but future ideas, stuff that is more longer term. Purchasing advertisements obviously is a way to market ideas these days. Democracia Global, Young World Federalists, and Democracy Without Borders is working on the Week for World Parliament in October. It's a series of events all kind of around October 24th to promote the idea of a world parliament. I think that's a really easy way for all of our organizations to participate together. It will be as global as possible. So that's a good way to show public support for the idea of a global democracy. And then online events similar to this. Yeah, and then fundraising, eventually, fundraising for someone to like manage all of this full-time or part-time or whatever. That's a future idea, obviously. Next steps is agreeing on whether or not to create our own social media or just keep doing what we're doing in a more consistent basis, agreeing on a platform, agreeing on a brand identity, and then after all that, updating the website. So that's sort of it. I will send the Google Doc, which basically has all this information in a Google Doc form in a Word document, and you can edit it, add your suggestions, and that's I think the ideas that I'm putting on the table, and I thank you very much.
Esther, that is absolutely fantastic. You're breaking down very ambitious, visionary ideas into extremely operational steps. So part of it is promotion and marketing. I think really helpful insights. And another part which I think is going to be really crucial is on a more kind of procedural, operational level, which is how we members, especially as we go forward and work together, how we want to do that. And I don't want to preempt the next GDI steering meeting.
Lucy, there is a problem with your microphone. I think I'm not listening so well to you. I don't know.
Oh, maybe the microphone. Can you hear me better now?
Really?
Can I speak up a bit? Yes? No? No?
Yeah, it's a bit better. Yeah, it's a bit better.
No, just look here, and then you're fine.
I'm going to speak into the microphone, so excuse me if I look away from you. Yes, so Eston, I think we will invite you to present that at the next GDI. I think there's a lot of food for thought. But I can see Cindy Lee's hand is raised. Barnaby's hand is raised. Please. Oh no, Barnaby's hand is not raised, but Cindy Lee's is. Please, Cindy Lee. Yeah, we can hear you.
Good. Cool. Yeah, thank you, Easton. That was fantastic for being practical. I really appreciated the follow-upable suggestions. I have one question about Discord, just to keep being practical. When you're using Discord, is that like Slack just an engagement platform, or can you store documents that everyone is working on together? The reason I'm asking this is because a lot of the things that you've listed have been done in a bit of an ad hoc way from GloCo on behalf of the GDI. And of course, it's baby steps, everyone's finding their feet. But with suggestions for alternate platforms to do things on, I mean, at the moment, it's been done with GloCo uses OneDrive, which has been the hosting site, but it's not a place where everyone can chat together, right? So you can chat on a Google Doc and you can't as easily on OneDrive. But when you're working on Discord, are you able to do both of those things at once, or do you use Google Docs or Google Drive as your storage site?
Yeah, short answer is yeah. We use Google as well. There are services. I think Slack, even if you pay for Slack, you can store things there.
Mm-hmm.
So this all-in-one capacity to basically work on your documents and chat at the same time, even go right into a video or audio meeting. These usually cost money. I know that you can. There are some that have 5 gigabytes of free space, but that can quickly fill up with just a couple photos. So it gets really difficult. So what we do at the Young World Federalists is we are on Discord and Google Docs, and we try to keep it really limited to those. And then the next one that you might want to add to that in terms of workflow would be like a to-do list application like Trello or Asana, or I mean, there's like a long list in order to keep everybody's jobs in place. However, with all volunteers, no one wants to do that. So it's really tricky. That's more for people that are being paid, that have to use these to-do list sort of workflow applications, but volunteers don't really want to look at a to-do list and take jobs that somebody is giving them. So every time I've tried to implement that type of application with the Young World Federalists, it's not been successful. So we just use the chat on Discord and the Google Docs for working.
Can I make a quick suggestion when you share your presentation at the GDI is maybe to highlight the second one about which platform we work on, because the social media options, whether we do it together or we've got separate channels, I think is really important, but maybe more important is where everyone engages together.
Okay.
At the moment, it's all email.
Sorry, I'm very mindful of the time because Fernando still has an input. I can see Asaf and Barnaby have raised their hands. Is it something that we need to talk about now, or is it something that we could talk about in the next steering meeting? Do you feel it's something? Did you want to flag something?
No, it can wait.
Okay, thank you, Barnaby. Asaf?
I just wanted to add something small for the branding. It's just that I think that once the system is on and functioning in the long run, we can establish a group of intellectuals, famous intellectuals, to push this initiative forward, and also make some PR for us. That can be a good idea in my eyes.
Okay, we'll take that forward. Thank you very much, everybody. So, excuse me if I move on swiftly to Fernando. Fernando, please, the floor is yours. I might have to be brutal and interrupt you at some point because we do have the big event of the day, which is the launch of the Global Democracy Initiative in exactly 20 minutes. So, Fernando, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Lucy. Happy to be here. Hi, everybody. Well, I want to address quickly to 3 points. The first one is about politicians. It happens to me to be one. So I think we should think carefully about this. I remember Tocqueville said that the parliament is the heart of democracy, and I still believe that. I am very respectful about initiatives on direct democracy. And I think we should find a new balance about the traditional representative democracy and a more participative and inclusive democracy. But at the same time, we have to be careful. Sometimes I think I heard things about direct vote, about everything every week, which is, you know, I'm very, I mean, it's okay, but think about the Brexit, which is almost an example of some kind of participative, inclusive democracy. I think now most of the British population has changed their minds. And this is one of the problems of speed and on taking decision, which is directly connected with digital democracy and direct democracy. We need to accelerate. The world is accelerating and the politics is not. And we need something more, but there is a danger there. And I wish to remind you about this. The important role of parliaments, particularly we as Democracia Global and also as the World Federalists movement, we endorsed an initiative about the UNPA, United Nations Parliamentary Assembly, which seems to me to be maybe the core of the problem of democracy. You know, how to make in a real way some kind of decisions and resolutions in order to fix global trouble like climate change or COVID crisis or pandemic. And I think we should contribute to that. First, this is about direct and representative democracy. Secondly, Barnaby was pointed a very good phrase: we work peace through law. Well, it happens to me also to be the president of the World Federalist movement. In 1947, the meeting was presided, the funding meeting of the World Federalist movement was presided by a flag: world peace through world law, which is exactly one of the problems we face right now. So as long as, let me be clear about this, I'm here representing Democracia Global, which is a little, and not the World Federalist movement, which is a little confused because I am the president, the co-president, together with Axel Axworthy, of the World Federalist movement. And I'm only an affiliate, maybe the founding father and the person who is always participating on the decision-making of Democracia Global, but I'm not the president, I'm not the director, I'm not part of the steering committee. So even though I'm here representing Democracia Global, but maybe Camila, who is the director, has something to say, or I wonder if she wants to contribute about that. In any case, my point is we speak always about global cooperation. This is something I used to say to the World Federalist movement. We claim to be in favor of the World Federation, but we are not that federal. We need to improve our federalism at our level. Sometimes we do, sometimes we are scarcely federal. And I have to say also about this, because we are always speaking about global cooperation, but at the same time, I can see at least 3 or 4, God knows how many, competing or parallel initiatives. Global Democracy Initiative, the World Federalist Movement, Democracy Without Borders, and many others. There is a group about the World Constitution. There is a group about immediate digital democracy, and etc., etc. So my policy, my decision about this is to be, I don't want to be sectarian. Sectarianism is, at this point of the polemic about political unification, world federalism, global democracy, at least we should have a single initiative, an umbrella where together us like good brothers share things and etc. But this is impossible right now, and I think this is a limit of our action. But what to do? My policy about this is I'm willing to participate. I'm willing to contribute to all the initiatives go on and have their impact, and I'll at the same time insisting about the need of we who are the supporters of global cooperation. We cooperate globally and try to have ties between the different initiatives, and to maybe some year in the future we converge, we merge, we do something all together as we propose to the world. So this is one of the points. I don't know. Of course, I was invited to sign the document. I agree with the terms of the document, but I cannot sign, but because I have no consultation with the World Federalist movement about this, and I'm the co-president of the World Federalist movement. Democracia Global is here represented by Camila, and maybe she could sign and to submit the proposal to the approbation of our steering committee, which I think there won't be any problem. But in order to clarify the institutional character of our being here. Well, I finish by that. We are going to be here. We are going to cooperate. We are going to push and to move forward. There are many initiatives and many organizations with very valid proposals. At the same time, we should think in a future some kind of global cooperation. I don't know what this will result in future. Nobody can see the future, particularly in these hard times. But we should think about it, because many of the difficulties in order to achieve a global democracy are very real. Somebody was raising here the question of how could we have a global democracy if many of the most important national powers are not democratic, and China is getting the first power maybe, and etc. etc. These are problems of reality. We should avoid to add the problem of something we should have reached a long time ago. So some kind of unity of not only of intentions, because we are closer in the view of what kind of world we need, where we should go move forward, but also in the tactics and the initiatives and etc. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fernando. That is actually an absolutely excellent word to end on, because I think that's exactly what we want to do, is move forward, collaborate more closely, rather than proliferate initiatives. And if you think back to our first webinar just 2 months ago, I actually think we've come a very long way in this very short time. We're now already thinking about branding, we're already thinking about workspaces, let alone platforms for global solutions. So I would like to thank you very, very much for your engagement. I'm very excited about this, and I'm absolutely delighted and very honoured that we can be here in the town hall of Worcester for the official and historic launch of the Global Democracy Initiative. So I know we're a few minutes early here, but I think we already have the Mayor of Worcester, who has joined us here in this beautiful room. So if it is all right with everyone, I would suggest that we proceed to the official launch of the Global Democracy Initiative. Thank you very much, everyone. And I will hand over to Gary, who is now.
Okay,
Yes.
Good.
Thank you very much.
thank you very much as well, Lucy, for moderating the webinar. And yeah, we move directly into the official signing ceremony that is going to be hopefully the highlight today. In case there are people in the audience leaving the webinar, thanks for joining the webinar. And as I said, we start with the signing ceremony. So it will be my part to give a short introduction first. I am Gary Colombo, Secretary General from GloCo. And let me start with saying that the human race has conquered many problems in the past, and many trends around the world are very positive. Example, we have less wars, more democracy, less poverty, more integration of minorities, longer life expectancy, and many new technologies like the internet. Nevertheless, the world is on fire. Mankind has also created some global problems that need more than just one innovation or one national law to solve them. Global warming and animal extinctions, tax evasion and migration, just to name a few. For some of these global issues, the solution seems overdue. The time to solve them has been yesterday. Why did it not happen? There have been many ideas and approaches already, maybe too many. Global issues can only be solved with global approaches. Thus, too many small and national solutions will not make the change. The good news, we have the technology, we have the ideas, we just need to implement it together and now. The Global Democracy Initiative will hopefully make this difference. Many people and organizations have great ideas about how to come up with global solutions and implement them, but only if we coordinate and our activities together and cooperate will we be able to get the job done. If the different organizations all believe that they have the only working hypothesis and everyone is trying to reinvent the wheel, we will wait much longer for the solution to come. There can only be one global democracy by definition. And that is why there is only one approach. Let's join forces and let's start now. How democracy works, everyone supports what the majority decided. If we all put our ego behind the best solution, we will be fast. If we all know the solution already, we will stay where we already are. To cite Einstein again. We are very happy and also a bit proud that we from GloCo were able to bring together 7 international organizations that will initiate the Global Democracy Initiative today and support it in the future. We are sure there will be more joining later, and also that we will be able to have an impact in the creation of a global democracy system. Personally, I'm looking very much forward to hear from each society why they signed the letter of intent today and are committed to support the GDI with their resources. It was planned to do that launch at the Global Forum of Modern Direct Democracy in Bern with a big conference. Obviously, Corona made us change the plans, but now we have nevertheless a very nice location where we can start the GDI, and I think to bring us all together internationally via Zoom is also an equivalent start. Before we start the signing, it is a great honor for me to introduce Barbara Thalmann, the mayor of Uster, to the signing ceremony. She supported the idea of GloCo right from the beginning, and now was so kind as to support also the Global Democracy Initiative and to host us in the town hall of Uster, where we are right now for this historic moment. Please, Barbara Thalmann, we look forward to hear from you. why you support the Global Democracy Initiative, and thank you once again for hosting us here in this beautiful location. Barbara, please.
Thanks a lot, Gary, for these words, and welcome, welcome to Switzerland, and welcome to Uster here on the top roof of our town hall. My name is Barbara Thalmann, and I'm the mayor of Uster. Let me tell some words about our city. Uster is one of the 20 largest towns in Switzerland, but I would guess you have probably never heard of it before. As you know, Switzerland is a small country. Our towns are small too, and not as well known as some of the major metropolises with millions of inhabitants in your home countries. But you will have heard of Zurich, which is Switzerland's biggest city with 400 residents. Uster is just 20 kilometers from the city of Zurich and only about 10 minutes away on the train, which goes to show just how small Switzerland is. Today, Uster has a population of around 36,000. This includes many middle-class families who enjoy the high quality of life our town offers. We have a wide range of schools, an excellent healthcare system, including our own hospital, lots of shops in the town center, and a large sport complex. Uster also has wonderful scenery. You would see it if you were here, surrounded by forests and a lake, and the mountains, which just have a lot of snow. Uster's prosperity is thanks in part to 2,400 businesses that thrive here. They provide jobs and ensure a healthy economy. As mayor of Uster, my job is engaged with all these different elements that make up our town. I talk to people from the fields of business, education, sport, and politics. And I'm constantly reminded of the importance of communication. I'm fascinated by the way people assess a project based on their particular expertise. I'm fascinated by how people come to their different conclusions, and I find it enriching to understand their perspectives and discuss with them. Communicating with people, respecting their opinions, and engaging in dialogue is the essence of my job as mayor. It is also the foundation of Swiss democracy. The best way to illustrate this is with a concrete example. In 2 weeks' time, the citizens of Uster and also the whole Switzerland will vote on a total of 13 political proposals. That's right, 13. They will vote yes or no on a variety of different issues. Their vote will make a difference at various levels, depending on the proposals. They will impact Switzerland as a whole, the canton of Zurich, or the town of Uster alone. In Switzerland, democratic decisions are broken down to a very local level. We believe everyone who is affected by a decision should be able to have their say. And what kind of things are we voting on in 2 weeks' time? At the national level, we'll be voting at the CO2 Act, for example, and deciding what regulations Switzerland should introduce to help tackle global warming. All Swiss voters will be asked to give their opinion. In the canton of Zurich, citizens will also be voting on whether to offer families with children more financial support. And in Uster, the population will be deciding whether to approve funds for a new cultural center. As you can see, the topics we address as politically active Swiss citizens are many and varied. But our democracy would not function the way it does if people were not prepared to take the time to have their say, to listen to opposing arguments and form their own opinions. At the heart of it all is one simple truth, the cornerstone of Swiss democracy, which goes back hundreds of years. We all need to be prepared to compromise. And with that in mind, I wish you the best of success with the Global Democracy Initiative. I have no doubt that you will earn recognition for your organization and make progress for democracy in the whole world. Thanks a lot and have a good time.
Thank you very, very much, Barbara, for this. And I think the example that Barbara mentioned is a very good example. We will vote here in the city of Uster about our cultural center. And I think that's the right thing, because Uster can decide about Uster's cultural center. But Switzerland is also voting about a CO2 tax. And unfortunately, the chance that the CO2 tax might be neglected is there. And what will be the reason? The reason is that if we will introduce a CO2 tax in Switzerland only, it will give us a negative impact on Switzerland only. And I mean, that's a very good example why a CO2 tax can only be voted on a global level, because only then it will become a fair CO2 tax. So thank you very much for bringing up this example. So that's, I think, the right words to go now finally into the signing ceremony and to have the first organization sign our letter of intent today. For this, I would like to hand over the word to Asaf. Asaf will be the first person to give us his motivation about why he joins the GDI, and also then show us how he signs the letter of intent. Please, Asaf, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Gary, and what a motivational speech of both of you. That was really, really great. I also made a small speech. So we are in the midst of the 6th mass extinction. Everything around us is breaking down, and we have so much to do, so many decisions to make, and so little time. Not only that, but the political system is working against us in most cases, since governments would not like to change the system and give up the power they hold. And our problems are global, complex, and intertwined with the local and national levels, which means the decisions we make on global level can cause suffering to people, cities, or even to nations. So we need to be very certain about the solutions we carry out and involve all stakeholders in the decision-making process. Stakeholders, of course, means everyone that can be affected from the solution. Also, instead of agreeing together on how to solve problems, representative democracy divides us to different parties that make us fight with one another instead of focusing on solving the problems we have. The current political system and the global establishment like the UN cannot facilitate such global change. What we need here is a massive global political innovation that will unite us against the problem we need to solve. As of today, we must decide to break industry standards and industry norms and create a system that will help us make better decisions on a mass scale. Now, global problems require global solutions. And the word global is like taking down the borders of the world and unite the different nationalities and different countries to a one united entity. GDI, I believe, is doing exactly that. We all have differences. We all think somewhat different from one another, but it doesn't keep us from working together, exploring solutions together, improving the system together, and trust one another. The GDI unites many organizations against the lack of decision-making. And this is why I feel committed to help as much as we can and support the Global Democracy Initiative. So now I will just take off the background. And now you can see my Yeah, and yes.
Very nice job.
It is first signature.
Thank you very much. One down. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Asaf. So we hand over the word to Barnaby Flynn, who will be the second one signing in the name of Global People Power. Please, Barnaby.
So Global People Power are happy to become, more than happy, delighted to become part of the Global Democracy Initiative so that we can model that which we are inviting and demanding of the rest of the world, which is to work together despite our differences to tackle problems which impact us all in increasingly similar ways. With regards to signing, my printer is broken. I'm gonna have to do that after the meeting. One thing I'd like to say is thank you for everybody who's not speaking, whose native language isn't English. I'm checking my privilege, so thank you for participating in my language.
You're welcome. Okay, so we still look forward to get your signed paper, Barnaby, then, but thank you for your contribution. Very much appreciated. So then I would like to hand over for the signing ceremony to Argentina, Democracia Global, where I think it will be Camila signing, right?
Yes, here, me. Can you hear me well?
Very well, thank you. Hi, Camila.
Hi, so we know that to build a global democratic system will not be easy. I have no doubts that we are here to cooperate and to work together. And so we need to work for global solutions. Normally, this kind of documents is our president or our vice president who signed, but today is an honor for me as Executive Director of Democracia Global to sign this document. So I hope you can see my screen here. Perfect.
Thank you very much. One more down. Thank you, Camila. So that means it's on me and yeah, at GloCo, the global democracy to solve global problems, that was actually the one and only goal that we had and wanted to achieve from the very beginning. One belief we had at GloCo also from the very beginning is that the implementation must be done together. Most of the parts for a global democracy system are already existing, or at least in development, and we must collaborate with the best to have an impact and make a change soon. Therefore, one of the first things we did at GloCo when we started was to see what initiatives and technologies are already existing, and we would have joined others if there were already an organization working exactly on a system that we believed in. We did find a few approaches and organizations working on similar concepts and decided in 2019 in fall, that's actually when we founded GloCo officially, already to initiate the Global Democracy Initiative. The idea developed over the last 1.5 years and will now start as a real working initiative that we believe to be very important. We will be joining the GDI today because we believe in the shared objectives as they are set out in this very letter of intent. Nothing is as powerful as an idea whose time has come. I know I said that many times, but I really believe that the time is actually overdue, and therefore we should use the power and make the change. Only together the global problems can be solved. Only together the system to make the change can be implemented. So it is an honor for me to sign in the name of GloCo, the letter of intent for the Global Democracy Initiative. Thank you very much. And with that, I'd like to hand over, or actually switch over to the next initiative, which is Democracy Earth. Unfortunately, Santiago Siri could not make it to the signing in live. That is why I will try to switch on the presentation. And
did you switch on the audio?
You have to just give me a second so we can have Santi with us, hopefully, if I'm succeeding with the technology. One more second. Very sorry.
I can't hear him, Gary.
Oh, you cannot hear it. I'm sorry. No. Sorry. Then thanks for pointing it out. I'll try again. I'm a little bit too many things to do. Let's try again. Hopefully this time it works better.
Hi everyone, I'm Santiago Siri speaking, and I wanted to let you know that on behalf of
Can you hear him?
Democracy Earth Foundation, we'll be signing the Global Democracy Initiative, which is a great effort to start bootstrapping a process that can help us get to a global democracy. We consider at Democracy Earth Foundation that it's very important to start thinking about governance processes that can scale to the entire globe, that we give participation rights to every single human, regardless of nationality or birth of place, and that we start addressing the many challenges that our civilization and our planet face on the 21st century.
Thank you very much, Santi. And here is the proof, the signature also from Santi under the document. And if it's okay with Esten, I'll maybe skip you and move directly to David Gallup first, because then I only have to mess with the technology once. And David also excuses himself. He's from the US and he could not make it today. So he also sent us a nice video. So let's listen to David Gallup from the World Service Authority, our oldest, I would think, member. The World Service Authority is an organization that was founded in the 50s already, so almost 70 years old organization joining the Global Democracy Initiative.
Hello, my name is David Gallup. I'm president of World Service Authority and a human rights lawyer. World Service Authority is delighted to be a founding member of the Global Democracy Initiative. Right now, we're living in a world with multiple global problems that we cannot resolve independently in smaller communities like the nations or cities or regions even. We need to start resolving our global problems at the world level. We are living in a world where there's been more than 250 wars since the UN was founded. This means that our world community needs a brain. It needs a system to help us to live together peacefully with each other and sustainably with the earth. And working together with other groups around the world who are interested in promoting global democracy is going to be crucial to this effort of us coming together and resolving global problems. And the first way to do this is to help us to identify ourselves. Who are we? Well, first and foremost, we are all world citizens. We're citizens of this planet Earth. And by identifying ourselves at that highest level, we can come together with the greatest minds and the greatest thoughts and work together to resolve the world's problems. Once we've identified ourselves at this highest level, then we can start coming up with the different solutions or options, the best options that will work for all of humanity and for the earth together. Then we can present those options to the world in a global, participatory, and democratic way and vote on these solutions. Then once we've voted on the solutions as one human voice and one human family, then we can start implementing those solutions. And then once we begin to implement them, we can also educate the public about how they can participate in promotion of these various strategies for resolving our global problems. And we can have a positive impact on the world as we work together as fellow humans and for the planet, which is our only home. Well, now I'd like to sign the Global Democracy Initiative letter of intent, which I have right here. So I'll sign it and then I'll show it to you. So let me put my location, which I am located in, well, planet Earth, of course, but specifically in Washington, DC. So let me put that, and then I will sign my name. Here we go. And I will show you my signature. If you can see, you may not be able to see it in this picture. So I guess I'll have to email it to you. But I'm so delighted to have been here today to share these few words, and my great excitement to be working with these other amazing organizations to have this one powerful voice for global democracy. Thank you.
Okay, and he sent it in. So here we also see the signature from David Gallup. Thank you very much to the World Service Organization. And with this, I'd like to hand over to Eston, who will be signing in on behalf of the Young World Federalists. Eston, please.
Yeah, hi. I'm Eston McCaig, and I'm the president of the Young World Federalists. The Young World Federalists call for a fundamental transformation of the way decisions are made at the global level. We believe that national governments have approached global problems with the same tools that they have used for centuries. They enter into voluntary treaties while reserving the right to completely ignore them. If humanity is going to solve its collective problems and protect its common interests, this outdated system of global governance must be transformed into something more inclusive, accountable, and enforceable. So I'm very happy today to sign on behalf of the Young World Federalists. I believe that the GDI is a great step towards the idea of a democratic Earth. And yeah, so I'll do what David did and I'll sign and then show you after. So there it is.
Thank you. Great job. Thank you very much, Eston. Thank you very much to all the other 6 organizations. And with this, we now have 7 signatures, 7 official members of the Global Democracy Initiative. The 29th of May, 2021 will be the official starting date. And I think now it is the pleasure on our side, and I hope you're all prepared as well, to go outside here where we have the champagne, the bottles, and start the celebrations. We hope that you're also opening up a bottle now around the world, celebrate the GDI, and hopefully soon we can do the same together one day where we all toast and have a great party together celebrating this day. Thank you very much. Best regards around the world from Uster. And hopefully, as I said, you will also have a nice drink together and toast to this great event. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest, but we will stay online so you can celebrate with us, of course. But let's first open up a bottle and have a drink together.
Woo! I haven't got a bottle open. I can make the noise. Hey!
All right. I'll wait for these guys to pop the bottle then.
Oh, well, just now.
Woohoo!
Yes.
All right. Cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.